Hey, and welcome back to the Sallie Ogden Show, everything I wish I knew when I was 25. So for the first few episodes, it's just been you and me, and I've been sharing some of the big ideas that really shaped my life, and so that you can see the life I have now and where I am, the stuff about achievement, about chasing someone else's dreams instead of your own, my version of success versus maybe what the world tells me success should look like, and about why we build our lives to look right versus those that feel right. But today, I want to do something different because I realize that you've been hearing from me and my perspective, my reflections, my kind of polished up versions of the story, and that's real, but it's also still a bit curated. So I decided, what if I brought in someone who has actually seen the real unfiltered version of me, and that person got to ask me some questions. See, I am a projector. That's my human design. We'll definitely do an episode on that later. And it really just means that I am better at responding to questions and being able to explain myself through answering questions. So he's going to help me. So my husband, Jason, is here today, and I've asked him actually to interview me, which honestly feels scarier than recording alone because he is right behind the curtain listening. Because he's going to be here for parts of the discussion that maybe even things that we have not talked about yet, like the ugly crying at 2 a.m. that happened only just a few years ago, the times where I didn't handle things all that gracefully. So he's not a podcaster. He is going to lob me some softballs and walk me through this very kindly. We're all going to be very kind to him, but he's just going to ask me the real things, and I'm going to try to answer as honestly as I possibly can. So let's get started and see what happens. Welcome.
Starting already?
I did. I have started already.
Okay. Hi. All right. For people who are just meeting you through this show, how would you describe yourself in a way that has nothing to do with your resume?
How would I describe myself in a way that has nothing to do with my resume? Gosh, I would say that I am a little sarcastic, maybe a little irreverent. I don't like to follow the rules. If you give me rules, I'm probably going to try to break them or go around them. I am very probably sensitive, more so than people realize. I would say I'm very hardworking. I love to work. I love what I do. I love to learn, absolutely love to learn new things, listen to podcasts, read books, watch YouTube videos of other people. It's probably one of the reasons I thought of doing this. So yeah, lifelong learner. And I would say I love love. Like I love my people really big and hard, and and I always say this too to close friends, so I'll tell you that I'm much more of an introvert than I am an extrovert. I'm decent on a stage and maybe in this setting where I can talk to you, but when it comes around to me spending lots of time with people all day, not good at it, not going to happen. It does not energize me. It definitely exhausts me. So if I've got to have a lot of people-y time, then I'm going to need some serious sleeping and napping after that. So yeah, I think that answers that question a little about me.
Okay. What were you like at 25? Like, what did you think your life was going to look like?
Oh my gosh. Well, at 25, I was married to someone else. So that's different. Let's see. At 25, I still thought that my life was very much going to be, the wearing of the suits, and my law firm was so old school. I had to wear pantyhose and closed-toed shoes. Like it was, deep South, very conservative. And I thought I would just be with my briefcase and my suits, and I would be trucking along and climbing the corporate ladder. And yeah, I mean, I'd have like the white picket fence and 2.5 kids at some point, probably. I ended up having my first child at 27, so it was much earlier than I thought I was going to. But yeah, at 25, I just thought nothing can get in my way, and I am gonna force life to bend to my will. And boy, was I foolish and wrong.
Okay, so obviously you're married to somebody different.
Mm-hmm.
In what other ways, or including that, how close is where you are now to that picture?
Oh gosh, I would say where I am today, absolutely none of it mirrors the picture of what I thought. I mean, in a million ways. One, I'm wearing jeans right now. So, I'm not in a suit, never wear suits anymore, although I do like them. But I think I always dress more formally than most people, probably based on that like computer operating system that says to be successful, you have to dress successfully. But anyway, I would say that, I now follow intentionality and my desire for impact over income. And I think back when I was 25, income was, the full basis of my success. Like all of success mirrored where income was. And I didn't really know anything about income, impact or intentionality. And today, yeah, really everything is about, creating the happiest life I can possibly create, and then thinking through how I can make an impact on other people in the most positive possible way that I can. And I follow so much more today my own intuition. When I was 25, everything was about external success and what other people thought of me. And, over the years, I mean, when I was a kid or even growing up, I had no like personal development, self-development. I didn't even know what self-help means or meant. That was not a thing when I was growing up. So there was no idea that you got to know yourself. And so I think from 25 to now, a little over 45, I have spent the last 20 years really realizing, oh my gosh, there's a whole nother world out there where I could get to know me, and who I am actually differs a lot from what those goals were at 25, who I organically, naturally am. And so now I have a life that mirrors who I really am instead of who the world told me I should be. And that means I'm married to someone that loves me the way I want to be loved, who I can love the way, big and boldly, the way that I do naturally. It means that I work out of a co-working space that I love, but there is not a corporate entity in sight. I work with all entrepreneurs. There's nothing corporate about that. So yeah, I mean, now that I think about how far I've strayed, it is a long way.
What is something people assume about you that's completely wrong?
I think that something people assume about me that is completely wrong. I would think that most people think that I am fearless because I do talk about it a lot. I think that most people assume that I don't let things get in my way or stop me from pursuing what I want to do, or, the scary things. But I think what I would want people to know is that I have fear just like they do every single day. Sometimes it is debilitating, as you have seen, lots of tears. Could probably interject here and say lots of tears, but I struggle with fear, and I let fear get in my way all the time. One thing I was realizing even earlier today is that, one way my fear shows up is that I stay busy instead of productive. I'm really good at creating new offers or, coming up with new things to do, but really bad at just remaining consistent at doing the one thing that is scary and puts myself out there and moves the needle. Like reaching out about, these profit growth plans that I do for entrepreneurs that I love doing, but I could face rejection at that. So I hide. And instead of doing that, I find more AI automations to play with, or I find more content to create. Here I am creating more content instead of just doing the simple things that would be productive. So my fear, I think, is certainly the number one thing that most people think, oh, it's easy for you. You can do it. Like you talk about it every day. You do these scary things, but I would say everybody has something that's scary for them that is different. Like this doesn't scare me. It would terrify a lot of other people, but there are lots of things that do terrify me that don't scare other people. So, we all have our fears and we all struggle with them, and I am no different.
You've talked on the show about building a life that looked perfect on the outside. When did you first realize something was off? Like, was there a specific moment or was it more of a slow leak?
Oh my gosh. When did I first realize that the external life I was building wasn't actually mine to own? I think that now that I can look back and reflect on it, I think that I would divide my life into kind of sections and say one of them was probably in law school, when I had this internal voice within myself going, this is not right. And I was like, I do like to cuss a lot. I don't drink or smoke. I mean, cussing is like all I have left, people. So that's just me. But yeah, I was like, shut the fuck up. I have to do this, right? I'm not yet 25. I was 22? Yeah, God, I didn't know who the hell I was. And I just needed to keep on following that path. And so I did not listen to it. I would say that voice came up again. I distinctly remember it when I was practicing law and, thinking to myself, I'm envious of what some of my friends have and the enthusiasm that they have for what they do already. And I thought, okay, well, it sounds so silly now. Work is just supposed to be miserable. So just put on your big girl pants and deal with it. So I ignored it then. And then from that point, I think when I was practicing law, like 25, all the way till about 35, I then subbed out alcohol instead of listening to my intuition and drank a lot. During that period, it was very much a period of numb your emotions, don't listen to your intuition, because I feel like after your whatever it is you believe, right, your higher power, your intuition, the universe calling you a couple of times, the pain that you experience goes up, right? I've always heard it said, like, somebody gets to the pearly gates and says to God, like, why didn't you save me? And God's like, what are you talking about? And he was like, I was on the roof waiting for you to save me from drowning. And he's like, I sent a boat, a helicopter, an army, and yet you still drowned. And, what basically God was saying in that circumstance is like, you've got to do something, like you've got to participate in this too. And I think that's where our self-will kind of gets, us into trouble. And I was running all on self-will from about 25 to 35. It was like, all right, this is miserable. I'm going to drink a lot. I started definitely living by the adage of work hard, play hard, and just thought that was normal. And then it was, I think 35, I just turned 36 when I felt another kind of tap on the shoulder, another one of these life chapter moments. I'll never forget, I was driving down Coleman Boulevard in Mount Pleasant, and that was when I just really, like, I don't know what to call it. It's just a God moment of hearing this voice saying to me, have you had enough? And I think that was the moment where it was like, have you had enough pain? Like, is there more pain that you need to endure in order to learn the lesson that the path you're on isn't right for you? Or are you ready to surrender? And luckily at that moment, I had some really good friends who were in the program of AA, and I reached out to them and was like, okay, I am ready to get out of this whole land of self-will and figure out if there's another way to live out there. And, for me personally, not speaking for anybody else, but the program of AA was the first thing that introduced me to living a life that was authentically mine. I heard things in that room that I had never heard before, that I did not know were okay. And it really was the start of where I am today. It kicked off that entire journey of figuring out who I am without numbing myself, without only listening to the external voices. And, yeah. So I feel like it was a very slow leak because I should have listened to it back when I was 22 instead of 36. So yeah, it took me a good 14 years of pain, and it takes what it takes, right? I mean, for each person, but it took a lot of pain for me to get to the point where I was like, okay, I am not running the show here. I think I will let someone else guide me, and I will listen because my way is not working. That is for sure. So I hope that answers your question.
I think so, but I think you kind of, obviously your answer was primarily about your work. We know work and personal life often are a mix. They are play off of each other. They affect each other. So without telling more than you want to divulge, what was that period of time like in your personal life? Mm-hmm. And did it have any impact on decisions you made as you were changing your career?
So did my personal life end up impacting the decisions I made for my professional life? My gosh, I don't know that anybody has ever asked me this one out loud. I'm just going to be honest. Yes, of course it did. I was using the alcohol during that period of time to numb not only the lack of professional fulfillment, but also the marriage that wasn't working. And, if I'm to be so honest, it was covering a lot of that up too. And that probably caused a lot of times in my professional life where I played small. In fact, I remember making the decision at one point when I took over, I left my big law practice and I took over a corporate and tax firm, and I started running that firm, and it gave me a little bit more stability in my schedule. And at this point I had 2 kids, and I made the decision to put his career first and to take a back seat. Our dynamic had never been set up that way until that moment. And my thought process was that maybe all of this lack of fulfillment, I was really thinking, makes me so sad. Maybe it, all of this like personal strife and lack of professional fulfillment, maybe it is all my fault. Or not maybe, I thought it was all my fault. I was like, I am to blame. I am causing my spouse to feel less than. I am too big for my britches. I am all the things that women get told. See, I have fallen victim to these things myself. And it is why I talk so much about them today. But I felt the need to play small because I was in a marriage where the other person couldn't handle it. And so, gosh, I spent probably almost 6 years doing that, taking a step back, trying to play second fiddle, and it did nothing to increase my happiness. It did nothing to make the marriage better. And all it did actually was fuel my drinking, because the pain of it was so intense, of not being myself and not following my intuition and my ambition, which is a big part of me. I chose to numb that out and not listen to it. So yeah, my personal life changed a lot of my professional life. However, I will say that had I not gone through those things, had I not tried to play small, had I not, gone through many years of living outside of alignment with myself and what my calling is and my soul, then I think I wouldn't be able to help other people try to understand their journey. I wouldn't be able to understand what it's like to be on that journey where you're living outside of alignment, and how it feels when you're playing a role that someone else wants you to play and you're not playing the main character of your own damn story. So yeah, my personal life it makes me really, really sad. I think just why it makes me sad right now, or why one reason is I haven't thought about it this way. Two is, fundamentally, I just want to help people. Like, I want to help other people. And my motto for my business always has been, when someone asks me what I do, I say, I help women make more money. And so two things. One, I hate hearing myself rob myself of the opportunity to do just that, to earn my worth. I was the only one that made that happen, and stop myself. And then the second is, I hate hearing that, because I think about that took away 6 years of me pursuing who I really am. And, wow, what a difference that could have made, I don't know, in so many different ways. So I think, to wrap all that up, I stayed in that marriage for 18 years. And, let's just call it a good 10 years. I knew that we were not happy. He knew we were not happy, but I needed a little more pain to happen before I was willing to quit and call myself a quitter. I just thought, you commit to something and that is what happens, and you got to stick with it, and so be it. And, it all imploded when I found out 7 days before Christmas that he had been having an affair. And so all of that sacrifice, all of that time and energy of me playing small and doing all of these things and trying to control how someone else saw me in that moment, was a huge realization of, we have no control over anyone else and their actions and what they do and who they see you as. So you might as well just be your own damn self, because people are going to be themselves, and there is nothing in the world we can do to change that. So another great quote AA has given me is, what other people think of me is none of my business. So had I just thought to myself, I'm going to be myself, I probably would have been way better off way earlier, but alas, it takes what it takes.
Next question. You've kind of talked about some difficult times in your life, but what was really the hardest season of your life, and what did you learn about yourself in it that you didn't expect? So you may have covered it, may be something you've mentioned, but what did you get out of it? And if it's something completely different, then what was it?
What was the hardest season in my life? I think there are 3 chapters. One is the realization at 27 that, and I wrote about this in my book, Hitting Rock Middle, where I'm really talking about the realization that, oh my gosh, you can chase all this external success and get every award and all of these things, and it doesn't mean shit. That was one. It was this implosion moment of oh my gosh, you'll get the award and then everyone moves on. And then you ask yourself, now what? Certainly the second moment that was the hardest season was getting sober. And just to clarify, for a lot of people, I did not go to rehab. I did not have, withdrawals or tremors. I didn't drink in a paper bag underneath a bridge. I wasn't homeless. I mean, I lived in the nicest neighborhood in Mount Pleasant, and just, I didn't drink every day. I could go weeks without it. I just say all of this because, a lot of people think they have to keep waiting, or that they have to wait until it's bad enough to do something about it. And if there is one person I can reach with this statement, it is, don't wait. You can tell from each situation I am naming here that waiting only increases the pain. As they say, you can ride the elevator all the way down to the bottom, or you can get off on a higher floor. And that's kind of what I chose to do was, hey, before, I lost everything and everyone in my life, let's do something about this. And I knew that I could not become the version of myself that I wanted to become if I was drinking, because it took so much time and energy away from me, either the drinking part or the hangover part or any of it, all of it. So that was a really hard season. I mean, I think that was the first season where I learned how to live in discomfort, because it was so uncomfortable. Oh my gosh, it was so uncomfortable to go out to dinner. It was so uncomfortable to go to cocktail parties and go to, I remember the first year of Christmas parties. And I remember like all the things that I thought I could never do sober, not having a drink at all in my hand, I was trying to do. So yes, that first year was hard as shit, which is why a lot of people just give up and quit on themselves, but you're not going to. Anyway, but hey, on the other side, it was 100% worth it. I always say now, like, I wouldn't have anything that I have today, including this amazing marriage and relationship that we have. I wouldn't have any of this had I not stopped drinking, because it just brought out the worst sides of me. Like, yeah. Now this summer, I'm coming up on 10 years. Can't believe that. 10 years sober. Wow. By the grace of God, knock on wood. And then definitely the last season of, going through a divorce after that long and trying to figure out your identity again. I mean, I had been with my ex-husband since I was 19. So that was such a dramatic change to suddenly find yourself single at 42? Yeah, 41, 42. Anyway. And yeah, trying to reinvent yourself. And again, figure out what you like and what life looks like again and build all that out. God, it was so hard. I mean, I wrote yesterday, because that was our anniversary, actually, from when we're filming this, of the date that I reached out to him on Instagram and put myself out there. But I remember having a crush on him for a long time and thinking to myself, I have to get my shit together. And to me, during that terribly hard season, getting my shit together only meant that I could go out in public without crying. And that was getting my shit together. If I could do that, then I had enough, enough to give someone else potentially. So
covered this a little bit in your answer, but is there a version of you that came out of that season or seasons that you actually like better than the versions that went in?
Is there a version of me that I liked better that came out of that season than the one that went in? I would say for the first one at 27, no. The version that went into that season and out of it was still the same. I mean, so sad. I had to keep enduring pain in order to change anything. The second one, yes, about getting sober, absolutely. I liked the version of me that came out of that. But let me put a big asterisk on it. I liked who I was coming out of that, but I still wasn't sure what it was all for yet, if that makes sense. Like, I think that you hope when you do something that is that scary and that intense and that uncomfortable, that it's going to serve a greater purpose in your life. And you hope that, that greater purpose will give you everything that you want And for me, that's fulfillment and joy, right? Well, at the time, I wasn't getting that, even though I had done the scary thing, even though I had gotten sober, I wasn't getting that fulfillment and joy. And so, I was coming out of it better, but I wasn't getting to experience all of the fruit of, the tree, or whatever the saying goes. And
Fruits of your labor.
yes, all the fruits of my labor. I was not getting to enjoy that because I was still in the marriage that was not working. And so he didn't love that I had gotten sober. He didn't love that we were not drinking buddies anymore. And so, but I think the biggest lesson from all of that is you may come out different, but you also may need to be patient enough for the fruit to show up. Like, yes, I didn't get to experience that right away. However, I can now say unequivocally that we would not be together had I not gotten sober. I mean, I know that you don't know me drinking at all, but I can assure you we would not be together. You would not like that version of me. So I think it's just important to point out, like, sometimes it can take years for you to understand why you went through something, or, you're gripping on to something like I was, like the marriage or the law practice, all out of fear, this insane fear that if I let it go, I would never get what I want. Like this self-centered fear, losing what I have or not getting what I want. And frankly, I needed to, and I couldn't ever trust, like I can today, that it's all going to work out. Like today, I know that, there are unexplained things that can happen in your life, and you will not know the purpose of them right away. But one day you will. One day you will get to see why that difficult thing changed you or taught you something that you needed to know, and that information will be so critical to the rest of your life being happy. And that's exactly what, it gave me. Yeah.
Okay. Getting sober, going through a divorce, leaving law practice, rebuilding your identity. Those are massive life changes. Was there one that scared you the most? Not necessarily the hardest one, but the scariest.
I think the scariest is the one that's not listed on there, which is starting a business of my own. Yeah, I mean, some of the other ones I was just kind of forced into, so I didn't really have a choice. Like I had to face these things and get through it. But I really believe that entrepreneurship is the greatest, self-development course you could ever take. And it strips away all of the parts of you that you're still hanging on to that are not serving you. So like when there are parts of you that still fear success, or there are parts of you that still fear what other people think of you, or there are parts of you that fear what failure or, rejection, any of those things. Like every single day as an entrepreneur, you have to face those fears and get through them. And it was so incredibly scary to do that and be the breadwinner, because newsflash, the 6-year experiment of me playing small did not work. And so I went back to being the primary earner, breadwinner, whatever you want to call it. And then I think within that was the fact that I wrote a book at the beginning of my journey as an entrepreneur too. And that book was really intended to tell my story of the transition from corporate America to entrepreneurship, and my story of sobriety in the middle of it, because again, I knew that I couldn't have been an entrepreneur without getting sober either, because I couldn't do all the scary stuff, or hell, I couldn't be consistent enough to show up for calls and do all the coaching that I was doing at the time. Yeah, I think being an entrepreneur is the scariest.
Well, knowing you the way that I do, being an entrepreneur seems like your natural state of being. So to me, it doesn't seem like it would be scary to make that change. So what was so scary about it?
Yeah. I know. See, this is the part that everybody says, oh, it's easy for you. You're just a natural born entrepreneur. No, I am not. I was not always this way because I had been in corporate America. It was all I knew. I had a consistent paycheck. Then I ran a corporate and tax firm. Again, consistent paycheck, but I was also responding always to what someone else was telling me to do. And then after that, I ran a real estate company and I kind of did the CEO, COO for hire thing. And I ran 6 different companies in 6 different industries, but I was always, again, running someone else's dream, helping someone else make money. And I am a good executor. Like, you can give me a task, I can go and do it. I can put my head down and stay busy, as I said before, really well. But that did not require me to show up as myself and provide myself as a service. Like, that is wildly different. So when I first started it, I had no social media presence, 0. I mean, even learning, because again, I'm 46, almost 47. Like, this was not organic to me whatsoever. It's still not organic. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. And the learning curve was so massive. Like, yes, I had finally learned how to run someone else's P&L, and I had learned about things like, finances and QuickBooks and things like that on someone else's dime, running those companies. But again, it is so different when it is your own, and when you don't have a consistent paycheck, and when you don't know where your next dollar is coming from. And yeah, at the beginning, I was just like, is anyone ever gonna say yes to me? Am I ever gonna get anywhere? I remember thinking, like, if I could just get there, which at that time was $10,000 a month in monthly recurring revenue. If I could just get there, I will have made it, right? I will have made it, because that was, for the most part, about $100,000, more than $100,000, but it was what a, typical salary would be of someone hiring out a female, not a male, female part-time or, somewhat full-time COO. So I just wanted to make it to that point. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, there are all of these business expenses that are in with that too. So now 10,000 isn't enough. And so I kept moving the needle, moving the destination. And anyway, yes, very, very, very scary. It was not organic to me whatsoever. I think I had my nose in a book, though, I will say, every minute of every day, probably for the first 2 years. I think I have never read that much. I cannot emphasize enough to new entrepreneurs how critical it is to learn the basics and just put your head down and learn some of those basic things, like marketing from Seth Godin, and, read his books and get to know exactly what he has to say, like some of the, oh gosh, I mean, I need to think about all of the ones that I read and provide a list. Maybe I can do that in the show notes, but I think reading got me through those first 2 years, but it was not at all organic to me. You see the finished product, which is me 9 years later.
What's a belief you held on to for way too long that you now know wasn't true?
What is a belief that I held on to way too long that I now know is not true? Where do we begin? There's so many. I think that, the biggest and easiest one to point out is that success equals income, or that success comes when you reach a certain point. Yeah, I think that would definitely have to be it. What I know now to be true is that the more you embrace who you are, and that you feel the success today, that the feeling of success is the precursor to the achievement of it. And I always felt like it was the other way around. Like, when I get to that place of success, then I will feel successful. No. You have to embody that identity first. You have to be that version of yourself that is in alignment with that person that achieves these big things. And because otherwise you will not bring it close to you. You will not be in that I mean, I can get very woo-woo here, but like you will not be in that frequency. Everything is energy. And so if you don't embody the right energy of the version of yourself that believes in yourself and that gets to that goal and believes without a shadow of a doubt that you will get there, you will never get there because you will always stop you. Not other people, not other things. You will always stop you. We do a lot of subtle self-sabotage every single day, every single one of us, me included. And that busy versus productive thing, that's my own version of self-sabotage. But I absolutely think the biggest belief that has stood in my way, or that I didn't know earlier that I wish I wish I knew when I was 25, I wish that everyone would know, is that as soon as I can embody the version of myself that already has these things, then I will attract them much earlier. Living in self-doubt, living in a scarcity mindset will prolong the time it takes for me to achieve the things that I ultimately want. And a lot of people think, oh, well, that's just how I feel today. It's not going to be how I feel once I get these things. No. Again, you will never get those things if you keep feeling that way today. So that's why I fundamentally say the number one thing you have to work on consistently, in addition to your skills, is your mindset. Every single day, like understanding. I've really gotten in lately into manifestation and really being able to understand more about energy, but that is because I studied the brain and the neurotransmitters and really understood that we are hardwired for safety, and understanding that, anything that my brain perceives as a threat, it is going to say, stay away, do not do. And you have to actually retrain your brain to allow yourself to do the scary things. Anyway, that belief has to be worked on all the time. I get off my soapbox on that one.
Okay. When everything was falling apart, and I mean really falling apart, what kept you going? Not the inspirational answer, but the actual thing, the non-Instagram version.
Right now I'm thinking about when I was, at my lowest, going through my divorce. What kept me going? On a lot of days, nothing. I mean, I think that's a fair answer. I think that is an honest answer. Some days, nothing. Like, there were definitely days where I had to call my team and say, I cannot get out of bed. I cannot do it. I cried all day, all night, and I let myself have that. And what I know today is that the more, again, we try to suppress those feelings, the longer they will stay there. If I can move through them, if I can, acknowledge them and experience them, I can move through them faster. And so I knew that at that point, and I allowed myself to experience those feelings. But I think it's really important to say sometimes absolutely nothing helped, except for maybe a little bit of TCBY, which is a really weird obsession that I came across when I was going through divorce. And it could be delivered here in Greenville. And that was really bad. But anyway, beyond that, though, I would definitely say my friends and certainly my family. I have a twin sister, and she was hugely there for me, not only by stepping in and helping me finish the renovation of my house, which she did tons of stuff on, even including paying for some things. I mean, my family stepped up big time. And yeah, my best friends. I mean, from taking care of me when I got surgery after we got divorced, to checking on me and picking me up off the ground and letting me be honest and letting me be not okay. I don't think I could have gotten through that without them. Like, these 3 really, really key women, and 4 if you count my sister too. Yeah, I mean, without them, I don't know what I would have done. And certainly my kids too, but I hope I didn't lean on them. I hope that in the end, they'll be able to say that they saw me be vulnerable, and they saw that it was okay for an adult, a person going through a tough time, to experience those feelings and then get through them. Like, because, they saw me get to the other side of it. They also saw me have to get myself out of bed and do my work and do the things and not quit on myself or them. So yeah, I think resilience too. I mean, that's the resilience. That's, I think, a skill that I cultivated going through some of the painful situations, but it served me during that time, is to be resilient. And I knew that, if I had gotten sober, I kept telling myself that too. If I had gotten sober, then actually, I just remembered something else. I remember thinking, if you got sober, you can get through this. But then on my darkest days where I didn't have my kids, which is, God, that was in and of itself, like getting used to that was horrific. But I remember the first couple of nights where they were not there and just wailing, crying, just at the sadness that they were not there, and saying to God, I trust you. I trust that you have something better waiting for me. And that makes me emotional again, because he did. It did serve a purpose, and it did take me to a much better place. I think both of us, him too. And I didn't know that it would, but I just kept asking over and over and over, please, please, please tell me that this is going to take me somewhere better. And frankly, I just was talking to a friend about this on Instagram the other day. It took me 2 years, right, to get to that point where I wasn't crying in public and that I could feel okay again. I know that everybody wants it to be shorter. I wanted it to be shorter. But yeah, it's not. It took me 2 full years, and that's okay. It takes what it takes. But yeah, it all did serve a much bigger purpose.
Now, for the reason that we're sitting here today, the show.
Mm-hmm.
Why this? Why now? You've talked about wanting to do this for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
What was the real reason you didn't start sooner, and what finally changed?
Okay. So I've talked about doing this for 5 years. What changed and what caused me to say yes to it now? So I'll give you all the full story. I'll give you the full scoop. 5 years ago, again, I was not in a great place personally, professionally, mainly personally. And I saw a psychic. And again, I told you I'm woo-woo, but I love this. And I saw a psychic, and she told me, you should be on YouTube. That is where you'll make your biggest impact. And as I've told you, that's really all I've wanted, is to be able to help other people. But at the time, I just wasn't ready to receive that information. I heard her say it and just blew it off, frankly. And then a couple of years ago, probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was during the part where I was, after the divorce, but before I'd kind of gotten my shit together. I heard it from another psychic, and she said, you are supposed to be on YouTube. And during that time, I thought, there is no way. I cannot put myself out there. I'm way too vulnerable. I heard it said years ago that you share the scars and not the wounds. And I think that is so true, and it stuck with me. You can share it, the story of all of it, once it's healed a bit and once you have some toughness around it. But if it's still a wound, it's open and vulnerable to attack. And I wasn't ready to hear anybody else's negative feedback. And then a couple weeks ago, months ago, I guess now, I did a hypnosis, which is so cool. If you have not done that, it's an amazing experience. And in that hypnosis, there was this, subconscious voice within myself saying, you need to do this finally. It's time, and you need to start it. And so I just decided, okay, fine. I'm going to listen to my intuition. I don't know why I'm supposed to be doing this. I don't know what it's supposed to even be about, but I'm just going to do it. And the times where I have listened to my intuition, each of those, as we've kind of talked about today, is always taken me to a better place than I was in. And that is, I know in my gut, that is exactly what this experience will do for me, is take me through this journey of, learning more about myself and hopefully being able to help someone else.
Okay. The show is called Everything I Wish I Knew When I Was 25.
Yeah. If
25-year-old Sallie could hear one episode, which one would you want her to hear? And what do you think she'd say?
If my 25-year-old self could hear one episode, which one would I want her to hear? I would want her to hear this one. Yeah. I'll get emotional again. You know, I think that there's always been this lingering fear within me of like not being good enough or not just being enough. And it was so prevalent at 25 and 35. And I would want the 25-year-old self to know, like, you're enough. Like, you always were, always will be. And that, I don't know, there's a part of me that wants to say to her, like, you made it through all the tough times and all the things that, you know, life threw your way. Like, you, and I know that term, like, you've made it, has a connotation of success, but to me now, like, you've made it means like you've made it through the hard times and you've made it to a place of fulfillment, and you've made it to a place where you are living within your own heart and identity and within your own soul. And to me, that is definitely making it today. And why the title, Everything I Wish I Knew When I Was 25, again, I don't know technically, but I think it's that, again, I didn't know any of these things. I didn't know that I was enough. I didn't know that I had to feel enough before I could ever actually be it. I didn't know that mindset was as much of a necessity as it is. I didn't know any of these things. And I think, you know, it doesn't matter if you learn that at 25 or 35 or 45, you know, it's hopefully something that I think once you do learn these things, that you can't ignore them anymore. Like once you hear it, once you know that there is a version of you that can live in full alignment, meaning an alignment to me is feeling fulfilled on a regular basis, that you are not having to push and grind and, you know, constantly feel like you're going against the grain or pushing a rock uphill, but you are in fact going with the flow of life that is yours to lead, and organically that you can live like that, like that is available to you at whatever point you choose to try to live that way. And I wish I knew that when I was 25. So there was just something about that to me that said the earlier I could help someone learn that, the better off hopefully they would be.
What do you want someone to feel when they finish listening to an episode? Not think, but feel.
What do I want someone to feel when they finish listening to an episode of the show? I want someone to feel like probably two things. One, they are not alone, that there is someone else out there that has experienced a lot of what they are in fact experiencing, and know that they are not the only one going through it. I would love for them to feel then, I think the word I want to say is courageous. I want them to feel a sense of courage of, you know, all it takes is seeing one person, at least for me. All it took was just seeing if one person can do it, if one other person can face these things and overcome them, then so can I. And I hope that they feel like, a sense of courage. I don't want to say inspiration because that feels very fleeting, but courage to me feels like they're willing to do the hard work, because it is hard. Like, you know, not just like, oh, you're inspired, you get to now float through life. No, but that you're courageous enough to show up in a different way, whatever way that is most authentic to you. And that, you know, sometimes that will be in your professional life. Sometimes that will be as a mom. Sometimes that will be in your personal life. So, but yeah, courageous enough to be themselves. I don't know, is that too ambitious?
Nope. Okay, before we kind of wrap up and close, do a little bit of the lighter side, essentially. Okay. Sallie as a person.
Yeah.
What's something you're really bad at that would surprise people, and don't lie.
What's something I'm really bad at? Art, drawing. I mean, so bad. Interior design, anything that requires any creativity.
I was sure you were going to say cooking.
Oh, cooking. Yes. I have almost caught our kitchen on fire before. So I'm now banned from the kitchen. It's also strategic. But anyway, but cooking, yes, I am terrible at that. Yeah.
What's a question you wish someone would ask you that nobody ever does? Just the question.
What's the question that I wish someone would ask me that no one ever does? I have to think about that. I don't know if I have one. I feel like everyone asks me whatever they want. I'm pretty much an open book, as you can see from here. Maybe the question should be something like, what can I do for you? Or how can I help? Something like that.
So what's the answer to that question?
Cooking, laundry, all the things that I am, terrible at, that you know very well, and yet you still love me.
Yes. Okay, now kind of closing and looking forward.
Mm-hmm.
What's something you're still figuring out, like right now, today, that you don't have the answer to yet?
I am still figuring out this next phase of my career. I'm still figuring out what this YouTube channel is. I'm still figuring out, I've been doing one-on-one coaching for almost the last 9 years, and I've felt like a calling to do something else and to make a different impact. And I had not landed on what that was for a long time. Lately, I've been doing these profit growth plans that are basically, I'm spending a month in an entrepreneur's business, preferably a female entrepreneur, and I'm showing them how to optimize their business through all of the important levers that you can pull in your business: operations, finances, sales, marketing, your pricing, and now AI, because I'm obsessed with AI, as you well know, we both are. And I am absolutely loving it, but I have to figure out how to, find these clients who need what I can offer. Majority of my clients thus far have been business owners wanting to climb to the $1 million mark. And this growth plan really works best for someone who is doing $1 million in annual revenue to about 10, because there are certain times in your business that you can really optimize things. And they likely have not yet been optimized because you've been running it the old way, right? The way that got you to $1 million, and you have not yet made a switch over to being a true CEO in your business. I could go on and on about this forever. I love it. So yeah, I'm still figuring that out. Like, how do I find my ideal clients? Where are they? Maybe it's you. I'm not sure. And then what is all this going to be? But I'm in this phase right now that says that's okay. And I'm just going to take it one day at a time.
If this show works, if it actually reaches people the way you hope, what does that look like to you? Not numbers. What does it feel like?
Yes. I don't think it's about numbers. I do think it's about having someone send me a DM or an email that says, I listened to this episode and it helped me, or it made me feel less alone, or I didn't realize that I've been self-sabotaging, or that, I needed to work on my belief system, or any of the things that we've talked about today. Like, what it would feel like to me is that I am living my purpose. That's what it would feel like, that I took a chance to do what I felt called to do, and that I'm finally helping people in the way that I had always hoped. And people that I don't know, people that I am not talking to, right, on a regular basis. I think that is remarkable. Okay.
That's a wrap.
All right. Thanks for asking all the questions, Jason.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being here with me.
You're welcome.
And thank you guys. So, well, that was different. I spend every episode choosing exactly which parts of my story I'm going to share and exactly how to frame them. And then my husband sits down and just asks me things. And suddenly I am not the host. I am in tears. I am just Sallie, just myself, which is kind of the whole point of the show, right? That the real version of me shows up and is always more interesting than the polished one anyway, that the mess is where the meaning lives in life. So I hope that gave you a better sense of who I am, not the version with good lighting sometimes and the prepared thoughts, but the version that's still figuring everything out. And I think probably always will be, because I am every single day. So if something from today resonated with you, I would love to hear about it. And if you got a question about life or transition or anything that you're in the middle of right now, send it my way, because I want to start answering your questions on these segments that we're going to do, where I'm going to let the audience ask me questions about maybe things that you're going through or experiencing in life, and I can get to answer them with perspective and without polish. So thanks for being here. I'm Sallie Ogden, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Sallie Ogden Show. I will see you next time.